sense. So I think it'd be funny for There's Something About Mary to be on that island, because it would be the most drama-free movie ever, because I think she would just figure it out. And I know that's weird, but I just think it's funny to me because
it's funny. I really was, kind of the way like NFL scouts, when they travel to USC or Notre Dame or, Alabama. I got to tell you, I definitely Team Sean did a recruiting trip on There's Something About Mary. We took a hard look at some of the potential options. I ended up not going that route, but I'm now revisiting it because I think you've made a pretty powerful argument. Actually, it was kind of funny you say that because I was thinking of The Hitchhiker personally from There's Something About Mary because, this is a guy that I think, can you imagine the kind of shape he would be in? He only had 7 minutes, to create those abs, but he'd have all the time in the world. So I was kind of looking at him, but Mary, what I like about your pick is, what I like about her is her heart.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately genuine good nature would ultimately allow her to adapt to the environment. You know what I'm saying? Like when you talked about Aaron and she would defeat nature, I think nature would come and help her.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think nature would come alive, almost like trees would all of a sudden start growing in a way to provide her shelter, because everybody around Mary wants to do whatever you could possibly do to make her happy. Right. So I think nature would adapt to her much more so than Mary would have to adapt to nature.
And like, think about, that scene in Three Amigos when everything's singing, the wolves, the cactuses, the turtles, like everything's just singing together. That would be her on that island. She would have they'd all be chilling together, singing songs at night, squirrels making fires. It would just be the most ideal thing. And then she could make all the rope structures herself. I bet the canoe she makes would probably be almost probably just as good as the wolves. So yeah, I like movies about very capable people. And so I think this would be a movie about a very capable person. So I think she'd be fine on a desert island.
I got to give you credit. I think it's a solid choice. It's an absolute solid choice. All right, here. So now we're in round 6. Okay, now we start getting into some.
What? Your later picks? What are you saying here?
Into some what?
Your later picks? Is that what you're saying? Or are you going into some funky picks?
No, well, like I said, when you get into, you go for. You kind of go for the big ticket items in the beginning, and now in round 6, I think this is where you draft for upside. You draft for, I think I'm more willing to take some risks in the later rounds. Identify the traits, and then let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once you put X person on desert island, it will be interesting. Kind of like Les Grossman. Okay, I'm willing to take the chance to put him on that island and see what happens. I think he has all the skill sets to survive and do well. Until we put him out there, we don't know, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we're kind of getting into, that kind of thing. So I really was thinking this is going to be kind of an odd pick, simply because it's an entity. It's not a singular person. But whenever you think about this entity, you think of them as a singular. Okay, you think of them in a singular term. You don't bifurcate them out. I'm going to Three Amigos. They are survivors, man, and I view them as one. I don't view Chevy Chase, Martin Short, or Steve Martin as any individual. They're kind of their own organism. Think about them, man. I mean, put them on that island. They are going to adapt, adjust, and improvise.
Tell them it's a movie.
Like the Marine Corps. And you know what? Because and this gets back to something you said earlier about skin cancer and things like that. Chevy Chase is going to have an enormous amount of water and lip balm on him at all times. So, I think he's just institutionally prepared to be there.
And their hats will be great for the island.
They'll be great. And they are problem solvers. Even if they don't know how to solve the problem, they innately solve the problem. You know what I'm saying? So anything that happens on that island, that triumvirate, most likely by accident, will solve the problem. I mean, we saw him out in the desert. Yep. We saw him with the singing bush. I mean,
and they have weapons.
Look, I mean, they even killed the Invisible Man. Who can kill an Invisible Man?
They took out El Guapo.
The Three Amigos. Yeah, they defeated El Guapo. I mean, so It'll be a challenge for them. I'm not here to tell you. I mean, they are incredibly pampered. I mean, they were the Brad Pitt, they were Brangelina, as far as highly paid, pampered actors in their time. So there would be some adaptive reuse that would have to happen here. But the Three Amigos as an entity, put them on that island, we're good to go.
And their bone structure is pretty tough too, because some of them they slam into walls and nothing breaks. So I mean, they're stronger than usual. I do think there'd be a scene involving Chevy Chase riding some kind of big animal that's all slapsticky. And I do think Steve Martin would get caught in a homemade trap from a tree. That would be some good gags in there.
And what happens if an enemy shows up? Their acting / improv skills will allow them to talk their way through any situation. So let's just say we believe that we put them on that island. They're alone on that island. We as viewers believe they're on an island. But what if they're not? What if everyone assumed it was a desert island, but there's some group of folks on the other side of the island that nobody knew about, some indigenous kind of people, and they showed up? They could handle that. They could handle those negotiations.
They'd win them over.
And win them over. Yeah.
I like
so yeah, the Three Amigos were they're round 6, and I kind of think they could have gone higher, to be quite honest with you, but they're still sitting there at 6. So the Three Amigos are my choice.
So I picked more than 8, and I wanted to maybe originally include Joe Dirt into the list because he spends a lot of time alone. Ooh. He walks around with meteors that are turds. He can talk to him, but you pick Spicoli, and I think their journeys would be too similar. They would just not
to interrupt, but I went Spicoli, but another guy that you're describing that I took off my list because of Spicoli is I took Chuck, Paul Rudd's character, for Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He was somebody that was on my prospect list, but Coley over Chuck. So I hear what you're saying as far as the journey. They're too similar.
So I'm going to add Ernest P. Worrell instead. Now, Ernest P. Worrell, he knows how to build everything. When you've seen his home, he builds invention after invention. Also, this man has been attacked by badgers and lived. He's been electrocuted and lived. He's fallen from a quarter mile and survived. He's defeated ancient trolls. And he can pick up ancient trolls easily that weigh at least 100 pounds and hold them extended in his arms. He's powerful, he's inventive, and it would be fun to watch him try to get off the island because he would just fail over and over. He would come up with the weirdest things, and then the gags of him wiping out would be brilliant. So just Ernest on the island would be, or Ernest goes to the island, I don't know, and just watch him talk, hey, Vern, there's no Vern. He's just talking to different things. Maybe he meets some people there. They become friends, and they just watch him as he does stupid gags. Getting hit by coconuts. He develops machines to take coconuts down from trees. He's not killing any animals. You've never seen that. But yeah, just seeing him survive. And also, Jim Varney I know somebody who worked on Ernest Goes to Camp when I worked on film sets. And they said that sometimes they would drop him off on a Friday, pick him up on a Sunday, and he would just live out in the woods for the weekend just to get away from set and all that kind of stuff because he was like a Kentucky boy who liked to be outside. So Jim Varney, Ernest, he'd have no problems on this island. It would be a blast.
One of the things about being isolated on an island is, as we talked about, is falling into some sort of social depression, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about that. One thing I like about your pick with Ernest is I think that he could develop and interact with a whole group of imaginary friends that would help him on that island. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And Ernest Scared Stupid, he has multiple personalities. So he's 18 different characters. He would be... So
that's going to be an incredibly important skill set to survival. I mean, he could basically create his own one-man community, and in his mind, everything's real.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's kind of like the Horde, from,
Legion?
Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking the Horde, Unbreakable.
Got it. So Legion's the same character, too. That in their heads, they have a bunch of different people.
Got it. So, yeah. So it's that ability, that ability to kind of create your own sense of community, people to talk to, I think it'd be actually fascinating. And I think Jim Varney's ability to do that, and the gags would be hilarious. And he would, in his mind, have people to witness the gags and laugh.
Man, I love it. And you know what's crazy too? When you watch his early movies, he was very wiry strong. Like he was just the you know those guys that are just $150, but they're just wiry and they could pick you up over their head. He'd be climbing trees. He could shovel for days. Like I don't think he would have no problem just keeping plugging along. He's just a strong, wiry dude who would have some zany pratfalls, and I would love it.
I gotta tell you that you kind of caught me off guard with that pick, but I kind of like it. I can kind of see me paying to see that movie.
Good. That makes me happy.
You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of there with you. So,
Let's see, your seventh pick
I
here?
haven't gone with a few. Go ahead.
Your seventh pick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going Erica Albright. Okay. This is the Rooney Mara character at the beginning of The Social Network. This is a woman that could be married to a gabillionaire, right?
Yeah.
But just on sheer principle alone,
Yeah.
she basically told him, you're going to be a very successful computer person, but no one will like you because you're an ass.
Big time.
That kind of person I want to see on an island by themselves. This is a person that is going to figure it out. She's not going to take no for an answer, and she's not going to accept mediocrity in her life.
No.
That's the kind of personality I want to see. And you got to think of the Rooney Mara kind of dynamic as Erica Albright in that situation, right? I think this is a kind of a part and parcel kind of thing, because I kind of was like trying to figure out how to get Rooney. I thought Rooney Mara could by herself could survive, just her, personally. But this was the character that really kind of came to me, that was just, no matter what situation happens, anybody if God forbid she meets somebody, God forbid, but she would not accept the status quo on that island. She would figure it out in some way, shape, or form, and not accept mediocrity. And that is the kind of grit and determination that is going to get you through. Those are survival skills that you will need.
What I like about this pick is that her character would have such a different trajectory than all of our other characters. You have Michael Myers stalking around. Storm basically takes care of herself. Ernest P. Worrell's building everything out of nothing. Lars is finding friends. Aaron conquers nature. Mary makes friends with nature. Then we have your pick. So we have Bernie. He would just kind of get by pretty easily. Hal would study everything. The Wolf would figure everything out. Spicoli would chill. Les would try to conquer. The three amigos would goofily figure things out. But Erica Albright, she would have to start from scratch on everything, but since she's such a perfectionist, I think that it would be an interesting watch to see her on there and the learning. And once again, I like capable characters. And then just watching her learn on this island would be a lot of fun. Just making mistakes and correcting it and not stopping. I think it'd make for a very intriguing narrative.
But just think, just in that movie, The Social Network, think of her character. Yeah. She's only in it. I mean, I know she has a kind of a second scene later, but for that, she's in that movie. Opens that movie for the first, whatever it is, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. But she is such a force of nature.
Oh yeah.
That she's almost as big in that movie as anybody else, and that's the dynamic I want to see. Just that injecting herself, her force of will. She doesn't have any special skills. She's not going to be goofy. She will be a survivor. I think when somebody finally finds her, picks her up, she's going to be no worse for wear. It sucked, but this is what I did. This is how I figured it out. And people are going to be like, damn.
She'll have a book. She'll have a book tour. She'll have the podcast. She'll be famous after she gets off this island. All right. So I guess my seventh pick here, and I just picked Ernest P. Worrell. So there's a movie I don't know if you've watched or even heard of, but it's called Revenge. It's a French film, and basically what it is this woman goes out on a hunting trip. Some really horrible events transpire. It's basically a rape revenge film, but she survives after they push her off a cliff and she lands on a cactus, like an old plant. She gets stabbed through the stomach. She survives somehow, and she has to kind of repair the wound on her chest. She takes a beer can, she makes it really hot. Then she cauterizes her wound, and that beer can has a phoenix on it, so she gets this beer can phoenix tattoo to cauterize the wound on her. and then she goes on the offensive against the three hunters. And every single time,